Lesson 13, Volume of Familiar Solids, Cones and Spheres, Day 1. Use the figure to the right to answer parts A through C. What is the area of the base? The area of the base is 12 times 3, which is 36. What is the area of the height of the figure? That's 8. What is the volume of the figure? We start with our formula, which is volume equals capital BH. Our area of the base is 36, then times 8. So therefore, our volume is 288 centimeters cubed. Next, for number 2, we have the volume of our rectangular prism, which is 295.68 inches cubed, and we want to know what our width is. In this case, we have our volume, which is capital BH. Here, what we do is we replace our volume with 295.68, and then that equals our length times width times height, and we replace our length and our height. So we have 295.68. Our length is 11. We have our width, and our height is 6.4. We multiply our 6.4 and 11, and we get 70.4 times our W, and that's going to equal 295.68. Then we divide both sides by 70.4. Oh, and I'm sorry, for some reason this didn't come through. This is 11 inches, and this is 6.4 inches. So we divide both sides by 70.4 inches, so we have our width equals 4.2 inches. Next, we have I'm going to bring this up just a little bit here. There we go. We have volume is a space that is a three-dimensional figure that can occupy. The volume of a glass is the amount of liquid it can hold. Volume of a rectangular prism is V equals capital BH, and that will also equal LWH. Now, when working with a circular 2- and 3-dimensional figures, we can express our answers in two ways. One is the exact, and remember this is exact, and will contain the symbol for pi. Okay, that right there. Okay. The other is an approximation, which usually either uses 3.14 for pi. Unless noted otherwise, we will have exact answers that will contain the pi symbol. Okay. So using what you learned in the opening exercise, determine the volume of the cylinder shown below. Leave your answer in terms of pi. So our formula for this, for a cylinder, okay, so our formula for a cylinder is volume equals pi r squared h, okay? Where h is our height. Okay, so here we have our radius is 2, our height is 5.3. Okay, I'm gonna make this just a little bit bigger here. There we go. Okay. So here, to find our volume, we have V equals pi r squared h. And now when we replace our what we need, we have pi times 2 squared times 5.3 equals pi times 4 times 5.3 equals. Normally what you do here is you normally put pi at the end. So that's where I'm going to put this. So our answer is going to be 21.2 pi centimeters cubed. Okay. Next, we have our cone. So now let's investigate our cone. Okay. Here it says, what would be the general formula for the volume of a right cone? Here we would have the volume would equal 1/3 pi r squared h. So to find the volume of our cone right here, we would have our volume equals 1/3 pi r squared h. So to replace, I have 1/3 pi. My radius is 7, so it's 7 squared. My height is 18, so we're going to multiply that by 18. So now we have, and I'm going to put my numbers in front. Pi is going to be considered putting it at the end because we're going to put it in terms of pi. So I have 1/3 times 49 times 18 pi. And multiplying all of this, I get 294 pi units cubed. So now, here it says for these exercises to leave our answers in terms of pi. So it says, what is the area of the base for our cylinder? So the area of our base, which would be our circle, is pi r squared, which would be pi times 6 squared, which would be 36 pi. The height here is 25. So to find our volume of the cylinder, volume is pi r squared h. Here would be 36 pi times 25. So our answer here would be 900 pi, and our label is inches cubed. For our cone, it says use the diagram to find the volume of the right cylinder or right circular cone. Round your answer to the nearest tenth. So here we have to round our answer to the nearest tenth. So we're not leaving it in terms of pi. So here I have our volume equals 1/3 pi r squared h. So I have 1/3 pi, r is 4, so 4 squared. And our height is 9, so times 9. So now we have 1/3 times 16 times 9 times pi. And we are going to use here 3.14 for pi. So I'm going to erase pi, and I'm going to use 3.14. And I get 150.72. And when I round this, I get 150.7 millimeters squared. Our last answer, or our last question, I believe, says use the diagram below to determine which has the greater volume, the cone or the cylinder. Well, by comparing these, if I use the cylinder, we have our volume equals pi r squared h, and we have pi and 4 is the radius squared. Our height is 6. So we have 16 times 6 pi, and that's going to give us 96 pi. And we check the cone out. We have our volume equals 1/3 pi r squared h. When I replace that, I have 1/3 pi. Our radius here is 6 squared, 6, and that's got to be squared. Our height is 8. So here I have 1/3 times 36 times 8 times pi. So when I multiply this, I get 96 pi. So when I look at both of these, they are the same. And that ends today's lesson.